Historically, the Fed would wait for conditions to weaken and then start to lower interest rates. This would be a very limited result in creating a soft landing. It never actually worked to do so, but this was their plan. In this current cycle, interest rates were already so low, and now they want to continue to drop them. We never even recovered from the financial crisis. It's truly scary what kind of juggernaut these people are about to release on this system. Are you ready? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I'm your host, Janet Yellen, and today we are going to talk about the financial system. We'll look at the Federal Reserve. We'll look at the Bank of Japan. I'm going to talk to you about interest rates and how all of this is affecting the average person. Let's get into it right away. You already know what's going on with the Federal Reserve. They're deciding to hold interest rates for now, but looking at rate cuts coming up in 2019. The Bank of Japan doing the same thing. Bank of Japan joins the Fed in signaling easing if needed, keeps policy steady for now. Already they're in the negative. It is absolutely terrible what they are doing. They own basically everything, and they're trying to remain confident while behind the scenes, clearly there's very big problems in this country. At the very bottom, I'm going to zoom in right here. Seeking to dispel concerns, the BOJ has run out of ammunition. Kuroda said the central bank could combine interest rate cuts with bigger asset buying if needed to keep the economy on track to achieve its elusive, not going to happen, 2% inflation target. Are you seeing what I'm seeing right here? We're going to go even further into the negative and we're going to print even more money. Can you believe it? If the economy loses momentum toward achieving our price target, we'll of course consider expanding stimulus without hesitation. If you go to his previous news conferences, previous statements, previous messages, it's always the same. We will backstop any losses. We will do anything it takes to make sure there is no failure. But unfortunately, they don't have to admit the failure for it to occur. This is the real scenario in Japan today. The central bank owns, the last time I saw it, was approximately 80% of the ETFs. They own a considerable portion of the bonds. You have an unprecedented level of money printing that has occurred, and it is directly buying the assets of this country. There are no real investors left in Japan. It is simply a central bank, a printing press that has been buying it all. Here you can see the worldwide central bank rates. This is cbrates.com, and it just shows you all of them. And if you scroll down even further, you get all countries and their current interest rates. It's interesting that it gives you the previous rate hike or the rate cut, which tells you sort of where we are at and where we were previously in history. And that's something that I like to look at on occasion, because you can look at the Federal Reserve and their interest rate, but it's important also to see how that affects other countries, because they're always watching each other. Are we currently in a rate cut cycle or rate increases? You can see that typically these governments are at historic or near historic lows. Doesn't matter where we look, it's simply a matter of fact. Economies are not strong at this time, and they need to keep interest rates as low as humanly possible. This creates a misallocation of capital. This increases the amount of risk that is being taken by investors. But of course, this is really what they want. They don't want people saving their money under their mattress. That's why they are purposely trying to create a scenario where negative interest rates are the norm. They want people to maximize their risk, and of course, some level of risk as an investor. That's good, that's great. But having it in this way is obviously very dangerous. We have seen it time and time again, how at the end of a cycle, when interest rates are at their rock bottom for that cycle, there are always problems. The central bank knows this, but of course, they are just following their plans. Of course, when you bring interest rates down to these levels, you have mortgage rates that correspondingly go down to these historic lows. People borrow more money than they could ever pay back. Historically, this has been the case. Look at this. New York, California, high tax state exodus, just the beginning, experts warn. You've got a problem going on in these areas in particular, where you see a whole bunch of people that were living there before, they've been moving out, and the only only time that you see a population increase is when it's people coming from a different country into these areas. That has been documented for California in particular, but you'll see some of them that people simply cannot stay. They cannot afford it. And part of the problem that we're seeing, yes, taxes are an issue. Wherever there are high taxes, people seem to be leaving, going to the states that are much more affordable. The real estate might be more affordable. The cost of living in general is simply cheaper, and that's what people have to do. But no one ever acknowledges the underlying root cause, and that is central banks printing up a whole bunch of money. It creates this moral hazard. People take maximum risk. Real estate goes absolutely insane. People can't afford the basics in life. Why? Because everything is so expensive. Because when you print a whole bunch of money, you expand the money supply. It always creates this price inflation that we see. It does not happen directly. It is always something that may affect you at a later date in a strange way. Looking at the prices of food, for instance, you might see inflation there, but you're not going to see inflation in your wages. It is never going to happen in the exact way you predict it, but at least we can identify the problem. When you have a central bank that prints excessive amount of money, you know who is getting the benefits of that. And you can see here, share of US wealth held by key income groups, top 1%, middle 40, bottom 50. Very clear that the top 1% continues to have a growing share of the pie, and the bottom 50% basically has nothing. Income inequality among the OECD countries. The United States here happens to be right near the end in red. Canada happens to be somewhere in the middle. And then you have countries like Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, Finland. They are more towards the left-hand side. Costs are rising everywhere. As I said, price inflation, one of those places is healthcare. While most Americans have health insurance, 87% according to the survey, medical costs remain a strain. Nearly 3 out of 10 avoided a medical service just because of cost last year, including a quarter of those with health insurance. Just under 1 in 4 have a past due medical bill. This tells you what's happening today. The same thing with student debt, as they mention in here. Just look at what's occurring with tuition fees. Tuition has been rising at such a rapid pace, and what happens? The student debt goes higher. This is what they want. It is always benefiting those at the very top, and it is always screwing over everybody else. It's not just a small group at the bottom. We're talking about a large percentage of the population. They don't even realize what's happening, but of course they get hit time and time again throughout these cycles, and this one is no different. This article here is talking about the potential for a third bailout for the farmers in the United States. Let's see if it actually happens, but they're already pushing for it, and they're suggesting it needs to come before 2020 because this is going to be a very important part of that. We'll see if the trade issues get resolved by then. China would then, of course, be purchasing a lot of agriculture. I'm going to be paying attention to this and bringing it to you, of course. Two more things really quickly. Los Angeles wants to tax landlords for vacant units. You may agree or disagree. When I look at this, I simply see a city, a state, a province, a region, all of these, they tried to fill the void that they've created intentionally with the central banks, all of the madness, by taxing people. Why not fix the root cause? But of course, they don't want to do that. And last but not least, pay attention to what is happening on a regular basis. You should be visiting this website, dailyjobcuts.com, if not once a week, at least once a month. You can see they give you everything on a day-to-day basis. They are tracking all of this, and I am really happy that there's somebody out there that's creating all of this, bringing it all together. I do videos for you when I can to show you the store closures and so on, but this is definitely a good resource that is really tracking what's happening, not just the jobs numbers that you see on a month-to-month basis, because those are truly a manipulation of the truth. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, you are supporting me, so I do appreciate that very much. If you want the financial education you were not taught in school, these two books have everything you need from top to bottom, A to Z. You can get the foundation, history, the asset classes, how to make money. All the details are in these two books. Check out the link in the description if you want the audio audiobook that's available at themoneygps.com. Wait a second, don't go anywhere. I got this really good video for you. Definitely want to check it out. Click on it and I will see you there.